On RSN 927's Racing Pulse, welcome to The Verdict.
I think you have to be fair that he is beating up consistently on the best horses in Hong Kong. Therefore, he is probably the best horse in Hong Kong.
What about the decision of Jess Eaton to pack up Victoria, head over to South Australia and just have a bit of a crack for a few more opportunities? 6 months later, she is now leading the South Australian Jockeys Premiership.
I know we all want the All-Star Mile to work, but it can't be at the cost of everything else, particularly the summer/autumn carnival.
I'm not going to get political with who else does great race days and all that sort of stuff, but there's no better race day than that race day.
I think it's due for a prize money uptick, though, surely, the Oakley Plate, along with the Blue Diamond. Can the Blue Diamond really be worth 1.5 when the Showdown's worth $1 million?
Jamie Carr is turning around horses that the top male jockeys are not succeeding with.
It is time for The Verdict, an extended edition today. No Victorian racing on this Monday, which means we have got plenty of time for your input and discussion. As always, you can SMS us 0416 90 50 52, or why not give us a call, 1300 652 927. We've got a couple of lovely bottles of Mitchelton NV Cuvée to give away to the best couple of contributors via text message or phone call. And gee whiz, we've got plenty of issues to talk about, from the big wet in Sydney, the postponement of the Golden Slipper, the pushback of their autumn carnival, Evoca Gate. We just heard from George Osborne, which seems incredulous, almost impossible to believe what occurred there. And we've also got to talk about the great racing. The Group 1, what about the ride of the Wizard on Friday night? And then we got to see him win 4, including the Mornington Cup on Saturdays. Mount Popper, a Caulfield Cup horse. We had the Oaks in New Zealand, Amaralina. She is a star over there. And then the Hong Kong Derby yesterday. Another New Zealand bred winner, Joe Moreira, the Magic Man, back to his best over there, and I think he rode his 100th winner at the meeting as well. It's quite a remarkable achievement. Matty Stewart, Mick Sharkey in the studio. Good morning, gents. How are you?
Michael?
Well, not bad. I was just trying to think in an instant about how my punting weekend went, and then realised that it was a pretty bleak tale. So how am I, Michael? I'm 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10, a losing weekend for Matty Stewart. Sharkey, how did you go?
Started very well, Michael, war correspondent. $17 on Friday night, that was handy. And based on where I was over the weekend, there wasn't a lot of phone reception, so I gratefully managed to maintain that nose in front over the weekend, which was good.
Well, that's nice to hear that you did have a winner over the weekend. I think there's no doubt that the big winner was Willie Pike, and we'll talk more about the Wizard a little later. We're hoping to get hold of the Wizard, who is back in WA, and also maybe Sean Casey, because it was good to see the WA double at Mornington on Saturday. But we're going to kick it off with the biggest talking point, and that is the big wet in Sydney. What is the situation with Rose Hill? Looking at the news services over the weekend, it's more than just losing a Golden Slipper meeting. It's a natural disaster what's occurring in New South Wales. 1 in 100-year occurrence. The rain, and from those that we spoke to in the first half hour, lives and livestock are at risk. And hopefully the tide, poor choice of words, will literally be turning in the next couple of days as far as what the rain is considered, and we will get the meeting underway on Saturday. The man who knows better than anyone is Sean Patterson, because he's got the tough choice, or the tough job, of trying to fix that track on Saturday, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
Hey, for us who are looking from afar and we're trying to get some perspective as to what you were going through at Rose Hill, can you tell us in the last 3 or 4 days how much rain has actually fallen on the Rose Hill circuit?
Yeah, look, as you said earlier, it is a disaster probably in surrounding suburbs. Parramatta's probably a little bit lucky in that sense. Just 20 kilometres away, you've got flooding and houses under water and rivers breaking the top capacity. But look, we walked in here this morning. We've obviously been here the whole weekend. We walked the track this morning. We've had 303.2 mils since the rain event started. It hasn't stopped raining as of yet, but the track actually feels pretty good for the conditions. There's no water lane on the track, which is good. And look, we're confident, we've got one or two more days of this, sustained up to 60 mil each day. But as we speak, it is easing, so hopefully that will kind of keep going.
Pato, I had a chat to Gerald Ryan this morning, who said that Mick Price and Matt Kamani had horses cantered there this morning, and their track riders were surprisingly enthusiastic about how it played, and they said similar conditions with similar rain down here would have had a terrible impact on the ability to even do track work. If the forecast is accurate, and this is again having spoken to Gerald Ryan this morning, he's quite confident that you'll be able to proceed if the forecast is reasonably accurate for sunny sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Is that despite the deluge, is that the way you see it as well?
Oh, most definitely. As I said, over the weekend we were scratching our heads, especially come Sunday. And look, we've got a lot of localised flooding here at Rosehill. We have a lagoon area out where we call the Eastfield Gardens near the winning post, and that's doubled in size. But the good thing is our drains are really draining. The course proper is draining. The surrounding tracks are draining. As I said, we've been able to have the poly and the sands open this morning, and everything's continuing on as normal. So, yeah, look, everything's doing what it needs to do. We're not getting overflow of drains. They're all running out where they need to run, and water keeps on moving through it. So we're in an okay position.
So what is the actual forecast for the remainder of the week, Sean?
Yeah, look, today and tomorrow are probably vital points, up to 60 mil both days. But then we have a total swing around, and we're looking at 30 degrees on Wednesday. Not a chance of anything, they're saying at this stage. Continues to Thursday, which they're saying is another 30-degree day with no rain. There's only a possible chance of 1 mil on the Friday, but the temperatures are staying in the mid to high 20s. So, look, we're quietly confident that we're going to be racing on. Look, we might still be a heavy, but with how this track feels after what we've got and with the weather that's forecast, we're quietly confident we might even get into the soft range.
Well, I was going to ask you, how good is it at draining? This is obviously unprecedented, but if you get 3 30-degree days without any further rain, is it a track that does recuperate very quickly?
Oh, it does. Basically, we've always had really good drainage. We've worked in the last 6 months to really improve that. We had, obviously, some issues with turf and wet before where it's in the top of the profile, but we kind of got caught out with that, and we turned it around and made sure that it wouldn't happen again. So even seeing the rain that we've got over the last few months since we've done the renovations, we've gone from heavy tracks to soft 5s, soft 6s. So it's doing what it needs to do, and we've offered it all the support we can, and it's doing what we ask of it.
Shane, I know you haven't seen anything quite to this extreme, but you've seen weather patterns before. Is it history say it will just rain itself out and that the forecast will probably be bang on? And the other thing too is, I guess the forecast has been quite inaccurate in the last fortnight, particularly 2 weeks ago. How much faith do you have in the forecast and on history? Do you expect it to simply rain itself out in the next day or two?
Yeah, we do. Obviously, coming from the track side, we don't have that great of belief in the weather forecast and its predictions, as we've seen. But, they've got it pretty much right this week. And, as we said, coming today, we expected it to be pelting down, and it's a light shower at the moment, and it's been around for the last couple of hours. Looking at the radar, it's kind of going to just be that for the rest of the day. There's not really anything significant there to say it's going to keep raining at that pace. So, look, all we can do at the moment is have confidence in them and hope they get it right, because Wednesday 30 degrees will be a great help to us.
Mate, fingers are crossed. Being a track manager is a tough job in normal circumstances, let alone when you have a 1 in 100-year occurrence of floods. I can only imagine what everyone's going through up there. So fingers crossed that it does cease on Wednesday. We do get the slipper meeting run on Saturday. Yeah,
definitely. As I said, we're very confident that we'll get to Saturday. And look, last Saturday is what it is, and we're really happy and with what the industry did and the club and Racing New South Wales to make sure that we can get to our grand final day, because it is our grand final day. And obviously Saturday morning there was a few faces of my staff that were quite gutted to not be able to get there. But, we've got a hope inside, and with the weather turning and becoming good, we're ready to go.
Just one quick one before we let you go. Apart from this, the ongoing discussion is about the waterproofing, in inverted commas, of the Sydney tracks, Rosehill and Randwick. There's a lot of talk in Victoria about the water efficiency, the draining efficiency of Caulfield and Flemington. Just your own personal view on, with an eye to the next 20 years? Is it time with the weather patterns that you have to deal with that Randwick and Rose Hill were ripped up and replaced by a much more sophisticated draining profile?
Oh, look, I think as the industry goes forward, we have to look at probably ways that we make sure that our tracks do drain and do what they need to do, probably better than they do. But when you look at Sydney weather in the past, it's so variable, and we kind of prepare most of our tracks on working on pretty much good weather for the 9 months. So it's hard to kind of say, look, let's get a really, really good draining track, but then have to go through summer and use double the water to keep it where it is. So it's in that middle ground. Obviously, we needed to look forward and try to improve on especially the technology we have. So, look, we've already started doing that in Sydney for the last 2 years with our renovations, just making sure that this year we put 850 tonne of topsoil sand on our track to make sure that the profile would be updated and drainage could help. So that's a standard now for us, and we keep looking forward to the future, and we'll take each day as it comes.
Just one tiny little one. There was a question asked on social media yesterday about can tracks like these be covered, as in like a cricket pitch, and someone produced a photo of a canvas over a track. It might have even been the synthetic at Ballarat. It would seem to be mission impossible to cover, as in a cricket pitch, a racetrack like Rose Hill?
Yeah, definitely. This question was asked on the weekend from Michael Clark. So he asked that question, and I said, look, it's not out of the realm of possibilities, but you've got to look at 7 hectares of grass. It's not uniform, so you can't just drag it from anywhere. And the other issue is, rain and predictability is not always, you don't have a lot of time sometimes. So to try and get that out, the worst thing we can do is have half a track covered and then the half of it gets 10 mil, and then all of a sudden we've got a different consistency. So consistency says, let it be even, let it do what it needs to do. If there was a way we could get it out very quick, it'd be worth a look out. But at this stage, there's no technology to help us do that.
And on Saturday, would you be looking to move the rail anywhere particularly at the moment? Is it even coverage, or is there a camber that means that the inside could be worse than the outside?
No, when we do our penetrometers and our track readings, we gauge the whole track. And especially, as I said, we walked the track this morning and a couple of times, and we have a look at it all, and it's pretty even and consistent. The rail is out at 3 metres. We'll leave it there for this Saturday, just to make sure we off that wear from the first meeting, and give that extra time to recover. But look, the paddock grass is beautiful, and as I said, it is consistent, but it's consistently wet at the moment. So once we start getting it drying out, I expect it to keep even.
All right, Sean, best of luck for the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Sean Patterson, the track manager there at Rose Hill. And I think we've got to give kudos to the ATC. I think it was the only decision they could have possibly made, because it continued to pour for the entirety of Saturday. But I did see on social media that, could you imagine what they had ordered? They had ready to go. The biggest day of their year, Golden Slipper Day, and they donated all the food that was there to local charities and so forth like that. So they did well at very short notice to try and do that, but I suppose it was the only decision to be made to move it back 7 days, because it is one of the biggest race days of the year, and we're run by wagering turnover. You couldn't run, despite what the weather is in the first half of this week, a Golden Slipper on a Wednesday. No,
it's a Shark. I reckon they made exactly the right call. And I think the bigger question is, assuming that the Weather Bureau might get it wrong and that the weather hangs around a bit longer, and say they can't proceed, can they afford to go another week back? And then what's the limit? Say if they cop this once in 50-year continual 2 or 3 week, which Nivesh did signal a few weeks ago. I know that it interferes with standalones. I think you get Scone and Hawkesbury, and then you push into early Brisbane and things like that. But haven't they got, given the importance of this carnival, haven't they got room to again go back a week in the worst case scenario? Because what's their alternative? To scrap the Golden Slipper altogether? So don't they have to weigh up one against the other and see which one comes out on top?
Well, it'll all be determined by what the weather does, and it's looking positive. I think you'd start, our next guest will tell us more about this, but I think you'd start to then take into factor the horse preparations. You've got horses that are trained, ready to run. If you've got them sitting around for 2 weeks, how much...
Well, they're not
would
sitting
that impact
around.
on
They
them?
can still work. You can still exercise and gallop your horses and everything else, and I'm assuming there's some facility somewhere where they can still have jump outs or that maintenance type work to keep them up to the mark. But It's amazing, even with 30-degree weather at the back end of the week, we're still looking at a heavy track, which probably just reaffirms again
Well,
how
they've had
much,
300
how
mils
much
at Rose
water
Hill.
has actually fallen.
300 mils, and one man who has been in the middle of it all, and he's been helping save horses, as we heard in the first half hour, is Richard Freeman. Not only does he have one of the favourites in the slipper, he has been helping out his fellow trainers over the last 48 hours. Richard, appreciate your time this morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Not a problem. Not a problem here. It's bloody wet, though. It just hasn't stopped all morning this morning. In fact, at Rose Hill this morning, there was more casual water this morning than there was on Saturday morning.
Well, we'll ask you in a minute about your guess about next weekend, but have you been heroic in the last 24 hours?
It's not heroic. It's just Brooke Summers, who trains up at Hawkesbury, rang me in a bit of a panic at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon and said, "Can I get some horses down to Rose Hill?" I said, well, I'll check around. So I just rang around. We found a few boxes, and I just went up there with a float and picked them up. That's all that was.
Well, that clears that up. I didn't think heroic was an automatic thing.
No, that's a media word, heroic.
I thought you would have taken it. So you would have been out there in the floodwaters, wading through.
Look, they're in a bit of trouble up at Hawkesbury now. There are trainers up there whose stables are now, under a metre and a half of water. So Brooke was smart to get out yesterday before all the roads got cut. There's quite a number of roads cut out there now too. So Hawkesbury's in a bit of strife, and I'm sure the Inglis's and all the float companies are helping them out as best they can.
Yeah, we spoke to Brooke earlier, and we also spoke to Colt Prosser and gave us graphic descriptions of what they've been going through. So our thoughts are with everyone in those regions. As for Rose Hill, we just had a chat to Sean Patterson. He seems confident to a degree with the forecast that we will be racing next Saturday. You're out amongst it. You see the track closer than we do. What's your feeling about the slipper going ahead in 7 days or 6 days' time?
Well, Sean's a great track manager, but like all track managers, the sun is always shining here and the track is always a good fall. But look, being realistic, if the rain stops sometime on Wednesday night, something like that, and we get 2 decent drying days, the track will still be heavy, but it will be safe and raceable. If this rain continues on as it is now right through the week, I would have my doubts.
So if it goes by the wayside again, what's the wriggle room, Richard, to, the for and against argument to push the carnival back for a second time by a fortnight? Is that possible?
It gets harder each time, as you can imagine, because, the club each time have to reset their whole, hospitality regime, which is not an inexpensive exercise. So you're getting more and more pressure from the clubs not to do that if you can avoid it. But in the end, if it has to be moved, it has to be moved. The difficulty with working the horses, and I was just listening to you before it came on, is that, you guys as punters, do you want to be backing a horse that hasn't had a run in 4 weeks and is going into a mile race on a heavy 10? That's the conundrum for the trainers as well. We don't want them going in like that. They are putting on more trials. They've scheduled we lost some trials this morning. There was Hawkesbury trials this morning. Unless they were going to do backstroke, I don't think they were ever going to be run. Given the parts of Hawkesbury are under a metre of water. So they've scheduled a new set of trials for Warwick Farm tomorrow, and we've nominated the odd horse there that was going to run or trial at Hawkesbury, and a couple that were going to run between races into the carnival races. We're now going to have to trial them or run them in races that are perhaps unsuitable for them. But, we need to give a couple of these horses a run.
So, Richard, as far as the training tracks are concerned, what condition are they in at the moment? And can you get enough work into these horses, morning to morning, or are they sodden and basically unworkable?
Well, I'd say the grass tracks, it will be unlikely. I think it's unlikely that the grass tracks will be open tomorrow, although they have been scheduled to be open. But we'll see in the morning. They'll no doubt make that decision this afternoon or at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, that those grass tracks could be closed here at Rose Hill. I expect the same at other tracks. But all the Sydney metropolitan tracks and even some of the provincial tracks have got these poly tracks now in New South Wales, and they actually get better the wetter they get. They get like wet beach, and they're very they're very easy on the horses when they're wet. So while they're getting a lot of traffic, they are serviceable, and we can gallop horses on it. So we can almost get the full job done, but in the end, we're going to have to trial or race some of these horses if they keep extending the carnival.
Gee, the wet weather's been such a talking point for so long in Sydney, and Wayne Hawkes spoke with Gareth Hall on Saturday morning down here about the tracks in Sydney, and his dad and brother, John and Michael, train alongside you at Rosehill. Have a listen to what Wayne said on Saturday morning.
It's just a complete stuff-up, and it's no one's fault, but now the line is in the sand, and I know I've said on Wayne's World to you, if Winx and Chautauqua hated wet tracks, which they love them, Sydney might have done something about their tracks, but they need now just put the line up and come to Flemington and have a look how they built Flemington and get their blueprint from there, because we need Randwick, Rosehill, Canterbury, Warwick Farm to be wet weather tracks, which none of them are.
Take Saturday out of the equation, because no track would have stood up to 300 mils of racing, Richard, rain and raced. But overall, is Wayne right, or do you disagree?
I think Wayne is talking from the viewpoint of someone who's, operating in a very different set of circumstances. Sydney gets most of its rain during the summer and into the autumn. So we get a lot more rain at this time of year. And when it rains in Sydney, it's a lot heavier. And he knows that. Also, we're dealing with different grasses here. We're dealing with a monoculture on most tracks of kikuyu. Now, the medium that has to grow in is a different soil content to what they use in Victoria. There would be similarities, but not the same. So unless you're comparing apples to apples, I think it's a hard call. Having said that, I've been around a lot of racetracks, trained at Flemington, trained at Caulfield, trained at Epsom, trained at Rosehill, trained at Randwick, trained at Hawkesbury, trained at a whole lot of them. They all suffer from the same problem. When they build these tracks, they usually build them with what they call slip drainage, which has a fibre cover over what is in fact a plastic drainage pipe. I won't go into the detail, but they all start off brilliantly. They all start off draining like you wouldn't believe. They're, like running on the dry sand at the beach. And then within 2 years, silt, mould and other things fill in those sleeves around the drainage pipes, and the water slows down, so they don't drain as well. And I don't care where you go. You've got new drainage, it'll be fine. You've got old drainage, it'll be much slower and slower to drain. So it's not a function of the guys looking after it as such. It's more a function of how these tracks are constructed. And just to add to that, they're constructed on the basis of engineers, most of whom have never designed a racetrack, most of whom are golf course engineers. They design them to sit golf courses on clay hard pans. My biggest beef with Randwick is it was the greatest draining track the world had ever known 20 years ago, because it sits on 90 metres of white silica sand. You can drill down 70 to 90 metres under Randwick and it's still sand. So it naturally drained brilliantly. But then, 10, 15 years ago, in came the engineers who want to charge, $500,000 to design something. So they basically can't say, well, just regrade the sand and that'll be fine. No, they've got to come up with some grand plan. And they're putting in what they call perched water tables, which have hard, almost like road-like bases underneath it. And the track has never been as good. But there you are.
Hey, Richie, there's a tangent issue here as well, and that is if, as you say, and it is true, that they get all their horrible, terrible wet weather that washes out racetracks in summer and autumn, the bigger issue is, and this comes down to what Peter V'landys has done with plonking races, pop-up races in the spring here, because there was a thought that the weather would be better. If this is a never-ending saga in Sydney, what has to be done about the programming of feature races in Sydney to factor this in? Is it time to, explore whether more feature races should be run in later November, early December and things like that, if we cannot get away from this endless story of Sydney in the autumn and heavy weather?
Well, there's no doubt that our climate has changed in Sydney. It's always been a tricky time of the year to run race meetings, and we've had our fair share of wet tracks back through history. But it is now a really tricky time. We almost get this like monsoonal weather in the last part of summer and the early autumn, and I don't see that changing. The only way it's going to change is probably going to get worse. But that's something that, you know, Peter and the crew in at Racing New South Wales will be looking at. And there's no doubt. But just to clarify something, we are calling the All-Star Mile a pop-up race too. That's also a pop-up.
No, it's a Melbourne one. We don't call it a pop-up
race. Oh, right.
race.
We don't call that. Okay, got it. It's only in Sydney that we have pop-up races.
Don't you understand yet?
Yeah, I'm getting it. Sorry, I'm a bit slow.
Now, we know that you are the man behind Peter Volandis.
Right.
So is that something that is being discussed, though? Maybe even pushing the autumn back? There's been talk in Victoria.
I haven't heard, Michael, I haven't heard of any discussion at this stage. But that's not to say it's not happening. But there is a reason why Sydney has pushed further into the spring and put on more race in the spring and is building its spring carnival. Two things. One thing, people in Sydney want to go racing in the spring. It's just the time of year they want to do it. They also want to do it in Melbourne, but you know, Melbourne sort of has the view that, it's sacrosanct, it's ours. But it's not yours, it's everybody's. And that's why there's more races in Sydney in the spring, and there will be more. And your idea of pushing further into November and December, when the tracks are coming into their peak condition and people are in holiday mode, that may be a very, very good idea. And I'm sure it's something they'll be looking at.
Richard, do you think Sydney and Melbourne could run the majority of their major races during the spring together? If they actually, instead of the argy-bargy, if somebody actually said, right, let's do this, let's look at making the spring a two-state feature, do you think it could happen, or are there too many egos in the way?
I think there are egos in the way. Whether there's, I don't know how many of them there are, but there's definitely some egos in the way. But I think it can work, and I think it can work for both places, because I think the stats are, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, that the turnover on both meetings goes up if they run two good meetings together on a Saturday in Sydney and Melbourne. I think both benefit from it.
I guess it's the horse population being split and how thin it is already, and whether it can be split to have proper quality races in both.
Yeah, I hear what you say there, but let's look at the actuality of that. If turnover's going up on both meetings with a split pool, obviously the split pool doesn't matter to the punters. And if you've got a split pool, then more owners have got a chance to earn big money because there's more races for them to run in during that period of time. So I'm struggling to see how this, you're splitting the pool and that's a negative thing. Well, that might be, but just give me the evidence that it is, because as far as I can see, turnover goes up, so clearly the punters don't care.
We don't get to see Sydney's turnover, New South Wales' turnover, Richard.
Well, that's what I hear in New South Wales, so I think, what I'm hearing would probably be right. If yours is going up, ours is probably going up too.
Quick one before we let you go. How are your horses stay inside and glistening heading towards Saturday with fingers crossed?
Well, they're over at Randwick, and, I keep in contact with Michael about them, and he's quite happy. He said we've discussed what work they might do. I don't tell him what work to do with them because he's there with them, but I'll make a suggestion and say, consider this. He does, and then he gets final say on those horses, and I get final say on the horses here at Rose Hill.
All right, now
but he's happy.
You do your homework that I set you last night and come up with some good family stories, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Right, okay. Well, on podcast, do you get sued for defamation?
Not against your own siblings. Not against your own siblings.
Right.
You're cocooned away. Just want to have a quick chat to Mark Van Gestel.
Richard, thank you for your time. We'll say goodbye to that guest before we get our next one.
I think he already clunked us.
Good on you, Rich. Mark Van Gestel is the Chief Steward because we need to find the lay of the land for the week in regards not just to Golden Slipper Day on Saturday, but what's happening for the remainder of the meetings in New South Wales. Appreciate your time this morning, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
So what is the situation as far as racing today, the next few days heading towards the weekend?
Look, so we've walked the tracks scheduled to race on Wednesday at Warwick Farm, and unfortunately we don't think it's going to recover sufficiently to allow it to race on Wednesday. We also walked the Kensington track this morning, and it's in better condition, but probably with the forecast over the next 2 days, we expected to get about another 60 or 70 mils of rain. We don't think it's in a position to race on Wednesday either. So that meeting that was due to race at Warwick Farm on Wednesday has been transferred to the Kensington track on Thursday. The Hawkesbury meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, has been postponed. That track is subject, as we speak, to significant flooding. So that meeting's been postponed, and we'll try and set another date for it down the track.
Rose Hill, obviously the weather pattern's expected to change later in the week. What's your deadline for making a call on it? And in your view, could it be pushed back another week beyond the original week it's been pushed back? Is that something that's achievable?
No, look, I don't think that's necessary. When we look at the forecast, today and tomorrow, as I said, we're expecting that rainfall, but then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the forecast is quite good. We're expecting days in Sydney's west of about 30 degrees, so that's on Wednesday and Thursday. So we're confident that with that weather, that the track will dry out, and whilst we'll be on a rain-affected surface, it certainly won't be in that heavy 10 range if the forecast is correct. So we'll be confident that Saturday will go ahead as programmed.
All right, got a couple of SMSs saying, does New South Wales need more poly or synthetic tracks in Sydney?
Well, what we saw on Saturday was just an unprecedented weather event. When we worked the horses in the morning, the track was, heavy 10, but it was very safe to race on. The forecast just was diabolical in terms of running a race meeting, and we had 100 mils of rain that day. Like even walking Randwick this morning, Randwick's had over 200 mils of rain on it the last 3 or 4 days, and we're probably looking at a heavy 9 bordering on a heavy 10 today. So that meeting would have gone ahead. So if there was a meeting today, so I think our surfaces. I heard the conversation with Richard earlier in terms of profiles and what have you, but I think in circumstances where what I've seen today, these tracks have coped reasonably well with the significant rainfall that we've had.
Mark, good luck. Fingers are crossed. Hopefully we get to see Slipper Day Saturday.
Good, thank you.
Mark Van Gestel, Chief Steward of Racing New South Wales. A lot of SMSs are coming through here. I did see a bit of Twitter back and forth. Maybe the ATC and other race tracks should learn from Hong Kong's track profiles and apply their principles. Monsoonal type rain there doesn't seem to affect their racing. That's from John. Other SMSs about Shark Sydney have had 527 millimetres this year. Melbourne's had 110. Let's not kid ourselves. It wouldn't matter what drainage you had. Sydney is Australia's second wettest capital behind Darwin. That's H from Shep.
Don't know if I didn't dispute how much rain they get, but surely if you're getting that much rain, you create or construct a track to deal with that rain. I would have thought this isn't just happened and that's it. It's been happening for a number of years now.
Well, it's not.
Aren't we at the point where and Richard made a great point that Randwick used to be a great draining track until they totally changed the track, the profile of it.
I don't think the issue is lost meetings in Sydney. It is having tracks created where instead of continually seeing those winks conditions that we just mind-numbing heavy 10s, that they're soft 7s. Instead of heavy 10s, create tracks where they race as a soft 7 like Flemington or Caulfield.
And the little factors that Richard mentioned about the drainage and the covers and getting mould and waterlogged or sediment and silt and what else, they're not things that can't be fixed. That you can do things to fix that. It's not as if it's just done, and that's what you've got forever.
Just a quick one before we go to the break. The bigger issue here is how unsatisfactory it is for Sydney to keep hosting its primetime racing in this now set in weather pattern.
When do you want them to run?
Well, but it's the debate. This is what we should be discussing, is what Volandi's...
No, if you're saying it's unsatisfactory, have you got an idea when they should run?
They should be running exactly... Look, in the ideal world, when you deconstruct everything and then recreate it, the view of New South Wales strongly would be, we want to race November, early December, when we want to have our feature races, as Richard Friedman was saying, because that's when they get their best...
But they have a spring and autumn carnival.
No, but
so you're saying don't worry about one... So don't have an autumn carnival.
What I'm saying is the autumn is continually washed out. It is just not prime time for them. So what they're going to be thinking if you wipe the slate clean is, which is hard enough to do with Racing Australia anyway, they're going to be thinking, well, we have to use more of November and early December because that's when the people want to go, it's when the weather's better, it's when there's no NRL. So they are going to keep pushing for that time, because what they forgot when they created the championships is that it's the worst weather time of year possible to run your signature race meeting. Like, it's always a heavy track. It's just, they're going to get sick of that. And they're going to keep pushing in the other way. Yeah.
It's not just wet one week and then you're back to a good 4 the following week. Once it's wet, it stays wet.
How many times can Volandis look out his window and see those umbrellas on the lawn not even poked out because it's rain and there's no one on the lawn during the championships? they're going to get so sick of it where they're just
Well,
going
he'll
to
just take action because that's what he does.
they're going to have to be very forceful about November and December.
SMS, hey guys, have you spoken to Mick Bell and how he feels about the Sydney races being postponed? That's twice now. Jungle Edge has had meetings postponed. That's from Mickey T. Well, we'll wait and see. A lot of SMSs coming through. Why not just put their carnival back a month? But then you run into Adelaide. Then you run into the Queensland Carnival. There's no easy answers. No easy answers.
Kind of something that Greg Carpenter said the other day is kind of true. Is you can't invent an extra month just because you need it.
SMSs here coming through. I don't mind Richie's idea. Spot on. No one owns spring. Why can't we have the two major race clubs and race meetings on the one day? Even split quaddies. 2 legs Melbourne, 2 legs Sydney. I don't know about...
Look at
I
that.
can't get them anyway.
Look at that.
Going from a good 3 to a heavy 10
That's
to do
an
it.
idea.
SMS. But I still have an issue with splitting the good horse pool because we don't have that many good horses. But
that's not Sydney's fault. Look, that gets back to a whole other problem about what sort of horses we're breeding here, and the need for speed and everything else. That's nobody's fault. That shouldn't be a reason why we can't
should have
change
enough
and innovate.
But I don't know
change your breeding practices.
Is there another country in the world that has a carnival going on in 2 different cities at the same time? I don't think there's an example anywhere else in the world where you would have Ascot, Newmarket, Churchill Downs, Saratoga, Auckland, Christchurch. I just don't think there's anywhere else in the world that does what we try to do.
There's a few SMSs here saying, Matty, you can't be serious. There's no way they can move their autumn carnival to November, December. What about the slipper? There'll be no 2-year-olds to run.
No, I'm just talking
golden slipper.
Put more muscle there and invest more there and then maybe lose a bit here, something like that.
The other little conversation that came out of the weekend was why nominations are open for the races. Why not? Those fields were locked in. Why not just carry those fields over a week?
Well, the slipper field is carried over.
What about the rest of the races?
Well, I think...
Why are they redoing them?
Why are they redoing them?
There is a rule in racing, I believe, and I will stand corrected on this, that says if you push them back, you can reopen them. And it's going to be to
You
racing...
can reopen or you have to reopen them?
I don't know. But you should do the research if you want to bring it up. But I think it's going to be of more benefit. Why wouldn't you reopen them? Because you can get more horses come in to those races. And we are hearing that Mugatoo may now be going around, maybe in the George Ryder. Mick Kent said on Saturday, Mick Price said Saturday morning, Odium might be running up there now. The fields may actually be stronger this Saturday because it has been put back a week.
But I agree with what Shark's saying too. I understand what you're saying and what he's saying, but if you are just postponing something, doesn't everything say a holding pattern and then you just replonk it a week later?
Yeah.
The same fields, the same everything.
It'd be filthy if you had a Group 1 runner and you drew a really good gate.
That's what I'm saying
for the cancelled
too,
meeting, and next week you draw barrier 14.
Let us know if you know the answer to that. But the Golden Slipper is staying as in. Now, is that because there were a number of declarations and payments were made leading into the Golden Slipper throughout that period? And the Golden Slipper field and barrier draw was done on the Tuesday, not on the Thursday, which means that the fields had been set for over a 7 to 10 day period. So, anyway, let us know. If you know the answer to that, you'll get 2 bottles of Mitchelton champagne because we don't know the answer in here. SMS us or give us a call. We need to take a break, finally. I'm getting screamed at. And then we'll come back and talk about a few other issues. Want to talk about Avoca, Mornington Cup Day, the unbelievable wizard from the West, his performance over at the weekend. We've got the Hong Kong Derby, New Zealand Oaks, all of your issues to get through. Richard Lamming case, the Hayes dynasty, a lot of news.
Opinions. Everyone's got one. On RSN 927's The Verdict.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Plenty of opinions flying through on the SMS machine. The Golden Slipper field stays the same because the qualifying stipulations haven't changed and can't change. We're going to clarify with Mark Van Gester. We should have asked him on air, so we'll get that information to you as well. A lot of SMSs re the Avoca situation. I had a chat to George Osborne a little earlier. SMS in regards to Avoca, I think the prize money should be paid out as the results dictated. The cash is already there to be used. It would be sensible and right thing to do. That's from Kingy. Long-time listener and a good friend of the program, Juppy from Bendigo, was actually fielding out at Avoca on Saturday, and he's given us a call. Juppy, good morning to you.
Morning, Michael. Morning, Matty. Morning, Shah.
Juppy.
Now, what was that like out there on Saturday when the race was declared a no race? Did you get hit 8s into 5s?
yes, we did lay the eventual winner because we were nursing the favourite. We thought that was probably going to be the eventual winner, but where we did get caught was where we were in the main ring. It was a bit hard to hear the call of Ben Sproul with any of his on-course announcements. So we didn't actually hear that there'd been no correct weight. And when the horse had won by that far, we started paying the winner out anyway. So most of the people that had a winning ticket got paid anyway.
So you had to pay out on the winner and then refund other bets.
Yes, it was the return of the old emus. I've never seen more blokes diving into bins and picking tickets up off the ground looking for ones that they'd thrown out on race 2. So, yeah, we were sort of in the situation where we paid out on the winner and refunded any punters that had a ticket on the race.
Juppy, it came down. I spoke to Robert Cram this morning. It came down to a printing error in the index of the race book. The actual race itself in the race book had the right distance, but the index had it incorrectly. But what Robert Cram said was he can't believe that nobody twigged. The jockeys, the trainers, the punters, when they went to the wrong stalls because the stalls were placed at the different spot. Is it hard for you? I mean, I know your vantage point isn't great in the betting ring, but is it hard to believe that no one picked up on it until the steward, when the race time came up, saw it was 1,100 metres run in about 1:13.2, said, hang on, we've started from the wrong barriers here because this time can't be right for the distance. So did you think it was weird that no one twigged?
It's sort of probably a few issues there, Matty, and you're right with it. That's how they picked it up was the time. Like that, the winner won going away, and I think the time was about 11 seconds outside the record, so they knew something was wrong then. But I actually spoke to Ben Sproul, who was calling the races there, and I said, mate, did you see anything? And he said, mate, I've got enough on my plate trying to learn the colours and remember the names without noticing where the barriers were. And I think also part of it is I'd imagine that whoever was driving the tractor and moving the barriers there at a club like Avoca, I assume, is a volunteer. Like, it's probably not like one of the bigger clubs, like, say, Golden Mile Day here up here in Bendigo on Saturday. Like, that'd be the guys that work for the club that'd be moving the barriers there. But I assume what happened was that, yes, there's an index in the front of the race book that had the race number, the time, and the distance, and whoever's just looked at that at the book rather than actually looking at the actual page in the book that had that race on it.
So, Anthony, how was that communicated then to everyone that was there and at the track? And, you know, obviously the picnic races draws a big crowd of not regular... Oh, yeah, sorry, true. But not regular racegoers go to a venue like Avoca. How did that sort of go down? How were they informed as to what happened and the reasons behind it?
Basically, I assume, like, as I said, they had Sky Channel in the main ring, so we didn't hear a lot of what was happening in the on-course broadcast. But I assume Ben would have said, like, this is a no race. It was hold all tickets. But that was quite some time after the race had finished that they said hold all tickets while we sort the issue out. And then it was, as George said earlier, like, most of the runners for the next race had been saddled up and they were in the mounting yard, like they were just about ready to go when they called George in to say that there was a problem. So it did take a while, and then it was sort of almost word of mouth for the people in the ring that if they'd had a losing ticket on race 2 to go and try and find it.
Well, Juppy, it's just a remarkable situation, and hopefully we don't see anything like that happen again. Racing Victoria are investigating. We want to find out a bit more for the owners and the traders involved. Hopefully they do get compensation. For you, who had to pay out some winning tickets and then refund everyone else, I'm not sure whether you can try and get some compensation, but what we'll do is we'll give you 2 bottles of Mitchelton champagne so you can drown your sorrows. It's only
that won't touch the sides.
Minor compensation, but it's something, Juppy.
Thank you very much for that, boys. I appreciate it.
All right, Juppy joining us there.
Jump on a couple of ways.
Jump on his social media. I've retweeted it as well because he's actually taken a photo of the racebook which shows the index says the race is 1,200 metres for race 2, but the race 2 itself says it's 1,100 metres. So, and George touched on this as well, George Osborne, the trainer of the winner. He said that maybe the bigger picture is that people are so strung out at the moment. There is so much racing. There's volunteers at these country racetracks. The stewards are thin on the ground at the moment. We'll talk more about that after 9 o'clock. Is there a wider picture as to, so that errors like this don't slip through?
Well, are we asking too much? Are we spreading the resources too thin? Is there dare I say it, too much racing at certain times of the year. Does that calendar facilitate opportunity for error, Matty?
Well, that's right. And when you've got small clubs that are run by community volunteers, but the impact when they have TAB status, if there's an error, is massive because there's 60 or 70,000 through pools and everyone knows about it and things like that. So it's that dynamic between small clubs, but they have an important role. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to say we have too much racing.
SMS here saying, I can't understand why the information in the racebook was incorrect. Surely it's automatically extracted from Racing Australia database. How did the distance get changed? That's from Simon.
Somebody doesn't proofread it or something like that. That's surely there are those checks and balances across riser or racing vehicles.
Is the index on the inside cover of the cover? Because the cover might be printed independently of the information that goes into the bulk of the race.
No, it's not on the cover. It was...
inside cover?
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Okay. Anyway.
Miami-bound young Verdant now heading up to Sydney next week as well. That's from Matty O. Why not reopen all of Golden Slipper's races? More horses, Blue Eye spot on, dash for once. Do the barriers...
Why did you read the second bit out? I would have edited that.
Little tickle there.
Does the barrier draw remain the same for Saturday's meeting? Well, the only race that stays the same, and we haven't been able to get hold of Mark Van Gestel, is the Golden Slipper. So the 4 other Group 1s and the undercard, all entries reopened, all ballots taken, and final fields barrier draws will also be redone as well. We go through to 10 o'clock, which is great because we haven't even touched on the Mornington Cup meeting. It was great to be out there on Saturday. Mount Popper was a dominant win in the Cup. I can't believe he's a $15 equal favourite, though, Sharky.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I can, because every year they're ridiculous.
The reaction to recency of race results and futures markets, I think it's officially jumped the shark. It's lunacy, utter lunacy.
I think it's just an awareness thing. Like, these are the horses that you want to be thinking about. I don't think they're making anyone bet, but. And the other thing too is
there's no want to bet when they change a market like that or instill a horse at that price. It's madness. Like, that's not a futures market.
No,
it's actually not. It's just whacking a horse at how impressive! It's up the top. It's a joke. That's what it is.
And the other thing too was that the win's hard to decipher because they went so slow. I mean, I know he was spectacular in the end, but what do you think was going to happen after they cantered along and he sprinted away? So. And then horses like my old mate,
Chapada,
whose name I forgot, just set an impossible task. So, look, I think we're so accustomed to these markets now that if you want to be foolish enough to have a crack, then...
You just faded out then.
It's a point
we'll have more coming up after 10 o'clock. SMSs coming through here in regards to that race and the slow speed. Hey, boys, brilliant day back home at the Alexandra Picnic races on Saturday. Well done to the club for putting on a great day. Unfortunately, Dino and Hamish, and we've been following the storyline of Dino and Hamish, who had a horse that they set, Chibiani, for the Alexandra Cup. Couldn't get the job done. That's from Matty O. Now, just having a look at the results, Derek the Viking won the Alexandra Cup for Raymond Douglas and Christine Boyd, and Chibiani, trained by Monica Sid, finished 7th, beaten 3.5 lengths. So we'll hear more from Hamish and Dino throughout the week on that. But well done to everyone getting to the Alexandra Picnic races. You've got some news on the crowds as well. There's SMSs coming through here saying if the AFL can have 75,000, why can't racing increase its crowds? Probably the only meeting that we want to see or could actually request for increased crowds is the last day of the Warrnambool Carnival. We'll have news on that after the 10 o'clock news. Keep those SMSs coming. Give us a bell if you want. This is The Verdict. More to come after this.
RSN 927's Racing Pulse presents The Verdict.
Portland Sky is running up behind them. Then Mars Crusader, who hunts the fence. Pippi in the straight at the 150. Portland Sky, Mars Crusader's wedging through and bursting through. Mars Crusader drives through, takes the lead. A smart horse, a Group 1 winner. 2 legs, Portland Sky, Libertini.
He's a smart horse indeed, Mars Crusader. That was Friday night, the final Friday night meeting of the night racing series, and the Group 1 William Reid Stakes. What a ride from William Pike. That needle-eye
How did he get that gap?
It was remarkable.
It was like he went 2D at one point and just it was paper thin getting through there. And he rode to suit the track on the night as well. That was the thing, like the inside. Rail section, one horse off the rails, undoubtedly the best ground. And he waited, just got half an opportunity. He was there instantly. There was no hesitation about taking that gap, Matt. He was an amazing ride.
And I always think about the time the PA broke down at Flemington. The race call makes the race. I get sick of praising Matt Hill. We all do, but he does it every... Like that call then, when he described that moment, was wedge through, squeeze through, push through, all in the one sentence, and that was exactly how it occurred. So
could not have timed it any better. If he was there a little bit soon, he would have been on the heels and having to check. You don't know what was going to happen if that gap sort of opened as they came around the corner. Was it going to close it? He was just there and with momentum to go through and take it at exactly the right time. The horse did the rest. Rupert Lee's got another Group 1 winner. Tornado gets his first Group 1 winner. The Swettenham team will be stoked about that. He continues to do a really good job.
Just on Pikey, I was talking to the West Australian guys on the radio this morning about... he now says he wants to come over more often. If he comes over more often, does that loosen his week-to-week grip in Perth? Do others like the Parnham boys and whoever else, do they start to take the rides that Pikey can't have because he's come to the east? And does it get to the stage where maybe he makes a call for the next 2 or 3 years? What does he do?
Well, he's got his family over there. Yeah. He's got a young family. He's got his farm and look,
Jamie Carr had a similar
Bob's
sort of...
So Jamie Carr doesn't have any family.
But she had mum and dad and she had a farm. So
the best jockeys in Australia
schools
travel.
Everywhere. You can put kids anywhere.
The best jockeys in Australia travel and they go where the best horses are. And they go. And
surely
that he is now that. He is...
It's a long way to fly.
He is a FIFO jockey now.
Yeah, he's a FIFO.
Bring him in for the big ones.
Go over there, you fly in,
but all I'm saying is now that he's got a taste for it, because previously he'd never known how accepted he would be. Now he's got this absolute platform where he just gets thrown on. The Perth guys feel that if ever he's likely to make a big call, never been more likely than now. So
and Mornington is a difficult track to ride on, and he just slayed them on Saturday with 4 winners. The 2 WA horses went in there as well, which was great for Sean and Jake Casey as well. Labour Rod winning the Haruba, another one for Tornado, and reading Adam Sangster saying that they're going to maybe increase his stallion fee and reduce
a bit rude, Adam.
The amount of mares that he serves next year as well. He had a runner in the Hong Kong Derby yesterday as well. So it's going to be interesting what Willie does, but I think he's got a pretty sweet setup where he just flies in for the big carnivals, big meetings, and heads back home and keeps doing the bread and butter.
But if Grant and Alana and Bob send the caravan over east all the time and say for 10 weeks in a row in the autumn he's wanted here, and then 10 weeks in a row in the spring he's wanted here, Brisbane Carnival, suddenly they latch onto him as well. He's away almost more often than he's at home in that situation. So Adelaide Carnival, all that.
Just quickly, boys, right now, as we speak, on RSN's digital channel, on our Carnival channel, we are simulcasting the funeral, the memorial service, which has been held at Moonee Valley for Jim Johnson, a Hall of Famer, dual Cox Plate winning jockey, 3-time Melbourne Cup winning jockey. So if you want to have a listen to that, if you remember Jimmy Johnson, that memorial service is on right now. You can listen on the app, and we'll also have plenty of that on RSN's website after that. That's courtesy of Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating live. So that is right now the legend, Hall of Famer. That is Jimmy Johnson. His memorial service is on right now. We've also got to make mention of Corey Brown. Really sad news in the last few days that we know he's been struggling so much with his neck injury, but he hasn't been able to overcome those injuries, and a dual Melbourne Cup winner himself now has retired.
I haven't got his record in front of me, but I remember when he was Freedman's jockey down at Markdale, there was a perception at the time that Corey Brown was the best jockey in Australia, and that was the thought for about 5 years, and he would probably kind of be one of the top 15 jockeys of the last 20 years. I'd say that would be where he'd fit in.
49 Group 1 winners, 2,466 career wins. It's a pretty good record. 49 Group 1 winners.
That's elite.
Absolutely. And when he was at his best, he was undoubtedly in that elite category. But I think the good thing We've probably started to see it in the last, I reckon, probably 10 years. These jockeys, particularly a group of elite jockeys, have made that transition from the saddle to media. And I think that's what we've lacked over,
no doubt.
Quite a journey with racing media is the voice of the people that are, the sports men and women.
The Poms latched onto it a lot earlier.
Footy can do it, cricket can do it, all these other sports do it, and they grab these former stars and plug them into a commentary role. And we've just started to get some momentum around that in Australian racing. I think it's a great thing. So hopefully Corey sees a future there in media and he can make a real go of it, because those opinions are so valuable, particularly when we're trying to get new people into the sport. It's so much easier to do it when you've got a star sitting there telling you how something's just happened or how it's going to happen.
Well, Ruby Walsh has been an absolute revelation on ITV. So, yeah. Hey, guys,
absolutely, yeah.
What's the next 2 years going to look like for Hayes Dabernig Shark? Or for Hayes, rather?
It's interesting, isn't it? Lindsay Park, and they've had sort of renovation, I guess, of staff previously, and they've changed the way they've set up, and they've moved, and they've built these new stables, and because of their success and their size and their prominence in the industry, there's always that, what are they doing? Oh, this is going to be the end of it. Oh, well, no one's going to say, people will walk out, there'll be horses leaving. Somehow they manage to continue going and enjoying success.
What about this time, though?
Why can't they do it again? Why can't Ben and JD Hayes be the next force to carry that Hayes name forward? I don't see a reason why they can't. They should at least be afforded the opportunity to. They've both, Ben's been training these, in partnership for a couple of seasons now, but JD's done an extensive apprenticeship. Why not? Why can't they?
Well, I agree that the Hayes camp has a history of youth prevailing. Like when CS started out, he was in his 20s. When David took over, he was about 30 and so on. But to lose David, who was the general, and to lose Tom, who was the general's number 2, and now to have these two guys in their 20s, and good luck to them. But my observation is in a very, very competitive environment, and it's all about the training fee you set and so on. Clients... with two guys who are basically unproven, and that's the reality. Tough marketplace. I think they face an enormous challenge. I'm not saying they can't pull it off, because the Hayes camp has a knack at doing it, but there's never been a challenge like this set that stable.
Maybe this is the stable that attracts the new owner, that younger demographic. They've got two young gentlemen at the helm. Maybe this is the stable that appeals to that new breed of racing owner. They want to get involved with other young professionals, or you've got two of them at the one of the biggest, best-known stables in Australia. But
they wouldn't want to lose any momentum. They wouldn't want to lose any momentum on the scoreboard.
It's inevitable that they probably will, because there's a changeover period and there's that bedding down of how we're doing things. But they would have... This has been planned. They'll have a momentum contingency plan, for lack of a better phrase, to make sure it keeps going as normally as possible. I had a really good chat to JD Hayes back at the Magic Millions, and sort of got an inkling as to what he wanted to do with his future. And once he's kind of the unheard, unseen member of the family up until recent times, but once you hear from him in his own words about where he wants to be in the sport and what his ideas around training are, it's hard It's hard not to feel like they're going to make a go of it.
But and this is the reality. I mean, and I do hope that they have a knack of succeeding, but we don't know if JD can train, and we don't know.
But we're going to find out.
But do you want to find out for 100 and whatever it is a day when you know that Kieran Marr can train, you know that Anthony Freedman can train? So this is the challenge that I'm saying. I'm not saying, but we can't hide in this discussion from how big a challenge it's going to be.
Yeah, it will be massive. But they've got the elite training setup, which is...
That's a big help.
Lindsay Park at Uriah. They do have a lot of people around them, including Gary Fennessy, who's been there for ages, and others as well. What will be interesting to see is when Tom does move out on his own at the end of the racing season, do many horses or staff go with Tom? What size will Tom stable be? He said he wants probably 40 to 60. And where will he set up? He said when I had a chat to him last week that he wants somewhere with access to a beach. Now, is that Warrnambool? Is that down Mornington Peninsula way?
So, there's only so much coastline that's available to horses, really. You can't just wander down and get it. So some of these beach venues might be getting a little bit crowded.
And the other issue for JD and Ben is the old man's taken a lot of horses and firepower over to Hong Kong as well.
True.
So that puts them... They're currently sitting third on the Metro Premiership with 32 wins for the season, and they've had 54 seconds compared to Elliott and Zara 21 seconds, and they're second by 1 on the winners' table, and Kieran Ma has had 30 seconds. So they might have been a little bit stiff with some of those seconds, but it is going to be fascinating to see how it plays out over the next couple of years.
Would David come back if the boys don't hit the ground running in the first 6 months?
Oh, but see, you're already... This is the thing, and it's a tone that's across racing in Australia. New blood gets involved, no matter what part of the industry. And the first thing is, what are they doing? What are they doing here? Oh, I don't know what they're doing. Rah, rah. Other sports, when there's new blood injected, like if there's a debutant for an AFL team this week, everyone's up and about how good they are.
But that debutant isn't billing owners for the cost of training.
But they're getting paid a hell of a lot of money to kick a football. There's the same sort of economy there. But racing seems to want to whack newcomers down when we need new blood, we need new faces, we need new approaches. And we're cognizant of that. Yet when we get new faces into it, we want to tell everybody that they don't know what they're doing.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that they face a huge challenge on a number of fronts.
It will be.
Yep.
But we don't know if they're going to make a go of it or not. But I guarantee you they've been very well schooled and very well prepared to make a go of it.
SMS is coming through here saying the Hazers will be fine. I'll be backing the Hazers. They've been doing it for dynasties, for generations. Another SMS here saying, sorry for everyone who lost on the Avoca race mishap, but that was my biggest collect on a dirty day when my heavy investment on the fave was refunded. Also, was at Moonee Valley and Mornington over the weekend. How good was it to hear the chanting of Pikey, Pikey, Pikey? It was next level, like he was a football hero. That's from Mark B. Like that SMS.
You haven't heard Pikey mentioned more since that, what's the UK gangster movie, Matty? Snatch with the Pikeys, you know, Brad Pitt, and he's the Pikey Irish boxer.
The gypsy boxers.
Yeah.
What's the latest in regards to the lambing situation with the stewards? I had a brief chat to the Racing Integrity Commissioner, Sean Carroll. I would expect there will be further news today. It may be coming out imminently, any minute, as to maybe another investigation into those two stewards, which we are waiting to see after the announcement from the Integrity Racing Board last week, which has been given to Racing Victoria. We're awaiting on Racing Victoria's findings on that.
That's where we're at. That is exactly where we're at.
All right. Other news over the last... week or so, Hong Kong Derby yesterday. If you missed it, have a listen to the Magic Man who claimed another derby.
With 2:50 to go, he's a couple of lengths clear on Healthy Happy, Russian Emperor and Panfield. Sky Darcy leads. Russian Emperor's 2 lengths away with Panfield. Sky Darcy needs the post. Russian Emperor running out of time. It's Joe and Sky Darcy for the derby. Sky Darcy beat Russian Emperor and Panfield.
Sky Darcy, Casper Founds winning another Hong Kong derby. Now, remarkably, New Zealand-bred horses, because it was by Sky Darcy, by Darcy Brother, as you would imagine, 4 Hong Kong derbies in a row, Sharky, for New Zealand graduates.
And how many Australian derbies in that time as well, you know, that continually produce really good quality middle-distance horses, New Zealand, despite the fact that a lot of them end up in Hong Kong, but quite a number of them end up over here too and do the job in the classic races. But Casper Founds having a great season and gets a Hong Kong derby.
Joe Moreira. Shadow Hero hasn't really lived up to the hyper expectation that we had hoped over there. Appeared to have every chance.
Yeah, every chance. A horse that I managed to get up there, Jolly Sailor from Henry Dwyer. He ran in the race, ran quite well. Probably didn't stay the trip. Turbulent Diamond.
He ran really well from the back.
He ran a really nice race. It was some really good runs.
Prince of Sussex, the Toronado that was trained
Lucky
over
Express.
Here, was Lucky Express. He had every hope, finished about midfield as well. The Aussie connections.
Some of these horses probably aren't suited to, you know, a 2,000 metre race, but because the Hong Kong Derby is the pinnacle in Hong Kong racing, they get their opportunity to try, and I think we'll see quite a few of those horses that we just mentioned come back to a mile, come back to 1,400 metres and be really good horses in Hong Kong.
Is their programming a bit weird? Like, there was a couple of horses yesterday where I was watching the previous round. Oh, well, he is 1,400 up to 2,000. And then I remember Pakistan Star, because of programming, had to kick off in 2,000-metre races and so on. Is there a really unusual stagger of races there, Shark, where they have to go from 1,400 to 2,000 into a derby?
I'm not entirely across it. I think they have those sort of derby trial races where they get the opportunity, but if you don't get into that stream, it can be a little bit awkward.
We'll take a break. It is the verdict on this Monday, 20 minutes past 10 o'clock. We'll wrap up all of the SMSs and the discussion from the weekend. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'm going to ask Sharky and also Matty Stewart the performance of the week and the most disappointing performance of the week. The best and the worst still to come on the verdict.
RSN 927's Racing Pulse presents the verdict.
From Charmstar comes after it quickly over on the outside. Back in behind these, Lana Cord runs on as Two Spine Tingle. Emeralinia in front. Charmstar's going to have a crack, but she's kicking Emeralinia. She's too good in the Oaks, and Emeralinia, brilliant. Charmstar, Lana Cord, second and third.
That was Emeralinia winning the New Zealand Oaks on Saturday. I'm not sure if you got to see that win, guys, but it was remarkable. She almost tipped the jock off at the start. She ended up racing wide, then got into a nice position, and she just put them to the sword at the top of the straight. Obi Bossum, another Group 1 win. Tiako, another Group 1 win, and a massive day over there. If she comes for the Oaks in Sydney, Sharky, and gets a half-decent track because she doesn't like it wet, she's a horse with some promise.
Yeah, she is. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's the track. If she gets decent ground, she's a winning chance. If the tracks are still sodden, they may not come.
Sounds like a drunk. Sounds like the drunk version of Amaral. Mick Guerin did tweet warning saying because of the expected wet weather in Sydney, she's not in any way guaranteed to come over. So if you're having a dip at her for the Oaks, just be wary.
Hey, great news too. Rupert Lee sent this through to me yesterday that Chautauqua is a winner in the off-the-track with Casey Bruce. She was at the Kahuna Agricultural Show, and he ended up winning the events that he was in. So well done to Casey Bruce and Chautauqua. The grey Flash, who is now looking almost white, back in the winner's stall. And geez, loved. Casey Bruce does an amazing job with Chautauqua. He looks $1 million. So in his eventing off-the-track career, he is a star as well. The big boy Chautauqua in action over the weekend.
Now, there is a really unfortunate story that, .com and others and the West Australian followed up on Friday in this regard. This is WorkSafe off the back of the issue with the Cranbourne Turf Club and the Michaela Claridge incident a couple of years ago, and they are now facing work cover issues. The issue with the track rider down at Danny O'Brien's back in March 9 last year, WorkSafe has charged the stable for not making proper provision traffic crossings, road crossings and so on. So a terrible thing that happened and a terrible thing for the stable to have to deal with this aftermath, of what was, an incident at the track that resulted in a disaster. And, I feel for the stable as well, for everyone concerned, because the stable will be dealing with this WorkSafe issue now, with this horrible, heavy burden of having had this unfortunate incident that resulted in the death of an employee. So
absolutely horrible,
terrible thing on a number of fronts that's playing out there.
Yeah, no, that is no good at all. I wonder with what's going through at Cranbourne, as well as now down at the Danny O'Brien stables, trainers are spread so fast here in Victoria and all over Australia for that matter. Whether WorkSafe or Racing Victoria need to be more proactive in ensuring that all practices are up to scratch before these instances occur, because there's so much going on. Track work of a morning on all properties that it is, hard for everyone to keep across things.
And off properties.
We
have horses at beach venues now where they are literally mixing with the public. They're floats in public car parks. Horses are going down ramps onto the beach. They are working where people are walking. There's a lot of crossover between professional racing and the general public.
And you can't bubble wrap everyone
No.
away from something that may happen from time to time. And the issue, obviously, WorkSafe is always going to be searching hard for a reason, but sometimes there are just factors that just come together at the wrong time and lead to a terrible outcome.
No, absolutely. Gentlemen, give us your best performance of the weekend. Sharky, I'll start with you.
Well, probably kudos to Masked Crusader, who I might have flippantly dismissed as a winning chance in the William Reid on Friday night.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but you.
No, look, I like to
basically
lead
said
with the
he
chin. You know, if you hang them out there, Michael, every now and then they're going to get pecked, aren't they? So no, it was a great performance, a great ride from Willie Pike. Let's not get away from that. The ride probably won the race, but still, Masked Crusader was great.
Is he on a good track? An Everest horse?
I don't know.
He was wet too.
On that performance, yeah, he may be. I probably won't be putting the line through him as quickly in a race like that if he continues to go forward. Look, he was a horse that early days showed a really good amount of potential. It's easy to get carried away and say, oh, you're a Group 1 horse, but last prep it wasn't there. It didn't happen for him. This prep he's come back and he's picked up where he left off and continued that progression. So, yeah, positive signs
Be nice
for all
if he
those
could-
involved with the Crusader.
You know, those impendings and that always flashed home like he does. Like, he's got that little Achilles heel where he just can't sit outside the leader or box seat, can he? You know, so it's always going to be a bit touch and go. So he's because we lost Sydney, Shark and I have gravitated to the same highlight. You can have Masked Crusader, I'll have his jockey Willie Pike, and together we've summed it up.
Okay.
Well, I think Willie Pike's a standout for the performer of the weekend. Well done too to Rick Jamieson, who obviously Gilgai Farm bred Masked Crusader. He stayed in the ownership of the Black Caviar fame as well. So,
And there was a great stat they put out too around the Hawks team and horses they'd purchased from Gilgai. I think it's maybe 5 and 4 of them have been stakes winners or group winners or something like that. Like Gilgai as a farm, phenomenal record. Stakes winners to horses they produce, but yeah, you can improve those odds again when Team Hawks buys one from them.
yep, no doubt about it. All right, that wraps up an extended edition of Racing Pulse.
Hang on, the dud?
Oh, yes, I forgot. I should have asked that.
I'm going with the Evoca race book for obvious reasons. For the little typo that caused a bit of a headache, let's just say.
Look, it's hard enough, I think, in Country Victoria, and we're all exploring Country Victoria at the moment, to try and find reception sometimes in sort of remote locations to watch a race. It's hard enough to do that without worrying about very large tiger snakes getting around at your feet, and that's a little problem I encountered there on Saturday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Down on the island?
No, a little bit further east. But just trying to watch the first leg of the quaddie, you don't expect a 6-foot tiger snake to come wandering out of
You
the
don't
bush.
expect serpents to interrupt your quaddie.
No.
Speaking of serpents.
That's a lovely segue for G. Hall, who has arrived.
Matthew Stewart isn't unbelievable. They tell me like the stories coming out of that mighty town of Echuca on the Murray River.
So yourself, it was a cracking the codes on tour.
On tour. How big have they got?
Unbelievable.
Codes Caravan.
Well,
Malecki,
Dan
Fisher,
Malecki,
Stewart,
his
a few other bit of another crew.
His brainchild, his little idea for cracking the codes to take it on the road and the program on a Saturday morning. I believe they shared a hotel room over the weekend as well.
No, we shared side-by-side rooms, and it was good fun. It was great fun.
Side by side, you stick together.
Exactly.
Yep.
What was your performance of the weekend, G?
Racing or footy?
You can do whatever.
There was a couple. I think maybe Adelaide. Yeah, Matthew Nix. I was happy for Matthew Nix. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Incredible. After watching those docos with what he'd been through last year.
Did you hear Stephen Rowe commentating the Adelaide game and his son kicked the goal? And there's some audio that I think the boys had it on this morning. Oh, that is just absolutely brilliant stuff.
I think Rowe said, geez, that's why we love footy. Yeah, moments like that. Terrific.
Any chance Matty wants to see the Wizard relocate to Melbourne? Any chance?
1,000,000 to 1. 1,000,000 to 1. He's got a farm in WA. He's the king of WA, and he'll just come and do what he's been doing.
Fair enough.
Hey, G, before I hand over
He'd make
to you,
more money in WA than he would if he situated himself, I think, here full time.
especially with Uncle Bob. SMS, best SMS of the program. We had a lot for 2 bottles of Mitchelton champagne. Come to RSN, pick it up. This was from Matty O, who had a great day at the Alexandra Picnics on Saturday. He was a little disappointed with Dino and Hamish's horse, so Tribbiani, who couldn't get the job done in the Cup, and you'll be following that story, no doubt,
You're
throughout
sticking
the
the
week.
boots in then, poor old Dean Hamish.
It's Matty O.
Oh, okay.
Not me.
But Derek the Viking, that's the Razor, Christine, they're husband and wife. So they got knocked off by the lethal partnership of Christine Boyd and Razor Douglas with Derek the Viking. So.
G-Man, looking forward to your Monday edition, which is always a cracker on RSN Central.